Hey everybody, Megan Barnhart here from Write with Megan. Today I'm going to be talking about what you can do instead of outlining. Don't like outlining? Screw it. Try this instead. So if you struggle with outlining, if you really don't like it, if you only outline because you feel like you're supposed to and it really doesn't work for you, I hope this is going to give you a new perspective and something that you can try and that will work for you and still give you all the benefits of outlining without having to do the thing that isn't working for you. All right. Hey, Lori. Hey, Lloyd. All right. I'm going to get us shared in the Write with Megan Facebook group. If you are not already over there, come over and join us. It's a place for writers of all shapes, sizes, and walks of life to hang out, talk about writing, get writing advice, encourage one another, get some accountability. So if that sounds like more of what you could use in your writing life, we would love to have you. We've got authors, we've got bloggers, we've got hobbyists, we've got pro writers, everybody in between. So it's a fun spot. If you're here watching, please do say hello so I can say hello back. And let me know what your questions and comments are, but there is always a little bit of a lag. So if you ask me a question and I don't respond right away, it's because I'm not seeing it right away, but I always do follow back after the live broadcast and check for questions and comments. So I will try to get a response to you live, and if I miss you, I'll come back and get you a response. Hello, Anne. Oh, thank you, Anne. I'm very relaxed. I had a massage this morning. I feel so good. The best massage therapist in the land. Hello, Wayne. Good to see you. All right. So you might think this topic's kind of weird, like screw outlining and try this instead. Because you're like, Megan, did you write a whole book about outlining? Yes. And here's the reason that I'm telling you to not outline and to do something else instead. I don't want the frustration with outlining to be what stands between you and finishing your writing project. So if you have tried outlining and it didn't work, or you are struggling through and feeling like you have to pay your outlining dues before you can write your book or your blog post or whatever else it is you're writing, I don't want this to be the barrier. So if outlining is standing between you and writing, I want you to be able to let it go, because ultimately the goal is to write. Outlining is supposed to be a tool that helps you write. If it's not doing that, it's time to let it go. So I'd love to hear from people who are here watching live. What's your feeling about outlining? Give me an emoji. How do you feel about outlining? What's your feeling toward it? When you hear that word, what does it inspire for you? Yes, Wayne, that should be another book in the Write Your Novel series. How to not outline. Dave says, any work of length has to be outlined when I write. Sometimes it's just notes, sometimes it's more rigorous. I feel that way too. I need outlining. Anne says, roadblocks. Oh. Dave says, I find it rewarding to write short works and poetry without an outline usually. Oh, I feel that too. Hey, Omi, good to see you. So I'm seeing some folks who enjoy outlining and some who don't. And then also I'm seeing, hey, sometimes I outline, but it really depends on what I'm working on writing. And I feel that as well. So since we want to give you an option to replace outlining, let's look at what it does, right? So you're like, I can't find that kitchen tool. I need to use something else. You better know what that kitchen, like I can't find a spatula, but what if I need to do is turn over my pancakes, then I can use a flat knife and try to do that instead. So let's define the tool of outlining. Outlining is supposed to do two things. One, it's supposed to make your ideas stand still, right? Sometimes you have these really great ideas and they come in your head and they go out of your head. Anybody have that? You have the best idea ever and it's gone. I had a friend in high school who is now a professional filmmaker and writer, and he had this pair of Converse, and the toe of the Converse had all this scribble on it. I was like, Micah, what's up with your shoes? He's like, oh, I had this dream for this really great short film. I had this amazing idea. And so I woke up and I couldn't find any paper. The closest thing was my shoe. So I just wrote down my great idea on my shoe. Well, The part of his brain that knew how to write wasn't awake yet, and he ended up with no great idea and just scribbled on Converse. But that's a really great reminder that an outline is supposed to make sure you don't lose your good ideas, right? So if we give you a tool that's not outlining, that's one of its jobs. Make sure you don't lose those good ideas. When you get them, you get to hold on to them, okay? The second really important job of an outline is to give you the big picture view. There's this expression, I can't see the forest for the trees, right? And so imagine what that's like. You're surrounded by trees. You're in a forest, but you don't know the shape of the forest, right? You're inside of it. You don't know how long it goes. Maybe that means you're lost because a lot of the trees can look similar. So the second really important job of an outline is for you to be able to see the shape you're working with and the kind of, the scope and the size of your writing, and because that's going to tell you the kinds of things it should include. All right. So do those two jobs sound like things that you want? Even if you're like, I don't like outlining, can you guys give me some feedback? All right, I'm seeing some positive emoji. That those things sound like what we want when we write, right? We want to be able to hold on to our great ideas. We want to be able to see how things fit together, right? Because maybe you got this great idea and you're like, well, I don't know, where should I put it? Oh, I've got my big picture, so I know it goes over here. Awesome. I'm checking in on comments. Oh, that's interesting. Wayne says, I can wing a plot, but not character. Ooh, intriguing. Anne says, I love outlining. It gives me a bird's eye view. And also says she lives in a forest. Nice. Hey, Rosie, good to see you. All right. Okay, so how can you get those advantages without having to do an outline? If you've read any of my books, let's see, where do I talk about this? I think I talk about it in Recipe for Drafting. There are a lot of different ways to think. There are a lot of different ways to approach writing, to come up with ideas, to formulate those ideas. If you are somebody who doesn't like outlining, you may find that you are a bottom-up thinker. And what that means is that you tend to come up with details first. You tend to come up with scenes. You like free writing. Kitty sniffing the microphone. Hi. Oh, hello, Bradbury. Are you going to tell us about outlining? You may just find you like to start in and write, whether that again is the scene in a book or a blog post. So go ahead and do that. Write. That might look like drafting, it might look like free writing, it might look like dictating. There's a conversation going on right now in the Write with Megan Facebook group about dictation and getting your ideas down that way. So just write the things that come out of your head. You're free, go do it, okay? Then come back and read those things. Now, how much should you write? This is a really personal thing. This is something you want to play with and experiment with, but I would say just write until there isn't anything more coming out, right? Just keep writing until you're like, oh, that's all I had to say about that I know right now. Oh dear. Then read it. Go back and read what you wrote. Okay, so far so good. Definitely no outlining in sight. Then start to look for some of your big ideas. Now here's something cool. If you like to just start writing, you might be a bottom-up thinker. You might also be very associative. Maybe one idea leads you to the next. And this is going to help you because when you go back and read what you wrote, now just start looking for what are some of the big ideas that you're addressing. Now, that's a very vague question, I realize, but the reason is because this applies to all different kinds of writing. So let me give you some concrete examples. I know I want to write a blog post that has to do with like setting goals for healthier eating. And I write and then I read back and I'm like, oh, some of what I talked about was like when you eat. Some of what I talked about was like going grocery shopping. And some of what I talked about was like the time factor, making sure you have enough time to cook. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm going to really want to capture that those are my three big ideas. If you're writing a novel, you might write and then go, oh, I'm starting to see my character's arc. right? I'm starting to see she starts this way and makes this change and then goes over here and does something else. Or I'm starting to see the theme develop, or I'm starting to see the plot. Like I know I want things to start out here and go through this sequence and this change. So no matter what you're writing, this works, okay? And all you're doing so far is looking at what you already have. Now here's the thing that's going to let you hold on to your good ideas so you don't lose them, and also let you see the big picture so you don't feel like you're lost in the forest. Just grab, like copy and paste or type it or write it out, some of those big ideas you're seeing, and dump them into another document. Just dump them into another document. And then label that document your table of contents. And there's something interesting about this, and I just witnessed this firsthand with a writer recently, somebody working on a book, where she's in this position where she's written a lot of chapters and she is gathering a lot of the raw material. And I said, okay, well now go, and I described the same process, and I said, I call it an outline. And as soon as I said outline, she was like, oh, does that mean I have to cut some of my ideas, right? So for her, outline meant something rigid, something structured, something that doesn't allow you to have all of the ideas you want. It's like some things won't make the cut. And I said, oh, well, what if we change the name? What if we called it table of contents? And she said, table of contents. Yes, I can get on board with that. And I thought, wow, it's so powerful what the things, the way we talk, the way what we name things has an impact. But create a document and it's your table of contents. Now it's not a table of contents in the full sense, because I don't think about page numbers, don't worry about order. It doesn't matter what the order is. But now you've got all in one place on one, it might not all fit on one page, but it's going to be, a relatively few pages so that you can see all at once. These are the big things that I want to cover. Now, once you've done that, you might go, okay, that's plenty. And now you go, I'm not going to lose my ideas because I know these are the key things that I want to talk about. And also I'm not going to get lost, because if I find myself writing way over here, I'm like, what am I? Oh, this was because I wanted to write about her backstory with her, growing up in a forest. And so that's why I'm writing about this, and that will ground you with the big picture. So that might be plenty. So let me pause there. Anybody ready to try creating a table of contents? Let me know, give me an emoji or leave a comment. Are you game for writing, reading back through what you wrote, grabbing the big ideas that you see and pasting them all into one doc? So let me know what you think about that. I'm going to go through and see some of the comments. Ooh, Wayne says, I actually just made a plot with Anne in a group, maybe 10 minutes of thought. Yeah, see, outlining doesn't have to take a long time. I love it. Dave says, I've written short stories and scripts with only dialogue just to get it down on paper. Then I go back and fill in the rest. Yes. So it sounds like for those shorter things, Dave, that you didn't even need to do the other part of the process where you went back and read and extracted the big ideas. Oh, Rosie lives in the mountains too. Nice. Bradbury is a bad kitty. He's not. I'm a bad kitty mommy. He needs more string playtime. I sit at the computer too much. Okay, Obi says, I'm more of a pantser, but outlining is more of a list of characters and their flow within the story. That's awesome, because that's going to give you those two things to keep track of your big ideas so they don't leave, and to ground you in the big picture, right? You're writing a scene and it starts to get away from you, and you come back and you're like, wait, what am I trying to show about these two characters? What are their arcs? Timeline, I'm seeing timeline. Shh, don't tell, but a timeline is a kind of outline. Okay. And Wayne says, now subplots may be an outline thing. Yeah, so once you've got the big shape, kind of going back and putting in the finer details with the subplot. All right, cool. So you can stop there. If you've done that and you're like, okay, I'm still feeling good. This doesn't feel restrictive. This feels doable. Take that table of contents you created and put it in the order you think you want to write it, right? Put it in the order that you think it will appear. Not, let me be really clear on this, not that you want to write it. Put it in the order that you think you want it to appear in your writing. You don't have to write in order, but if you've got that list of things, like these are the character arc moments that I am seeing, or these are the different settings that I want to be throughout my story, or these are the topics I want to cover in my blog post. One additional step is you go and you put them in order. Okay. And what did I just do? I just tricked you into creating an outline. But the reality is an outline is just a container for your thoughts. Yes, Wayne, post-it notes count as a table of contents. Okay, this is these are my talking points right now. I find post-it notes so freeing. I find it so freeing. I just start scribbling down and then I literally pick them up and put them in the order I want them in. It's all helping you do, again, just those two key things, which is to not lose your great ideas, and then to make sure you can see the forest and the trees, that you can go back and forth between that big picture and all the lovely details. And that's what the skill of writing is. The skill of writing is being able to do both these things. I watch a lot of home design and home construction shows, so this is the analogy that's coming to mind. If you are building a house, there is one person whose job it is to be the project manager and see that big picture, right? There's another person's job. There's another person whose job it is to put in all the electrical wiring. There's another person whose job it is to get your drywall up, right? Each of those people is a master, you hope, right? If you've hired a good contractor, is a master in that area, right? And so it's like when your wires go in, your plumbing goes in, it's all in the right place. But your electrician and plumber are not also bouncing back and being the project manager and are we on the timeline? Did the drywall go in, right? You as a writer are doing all of those jobs. You are the project manager. You are the architect getting the inspiration and the design. You are laying every single brick that's there. So if writing seems challenging, it's because it is. You're wearing a lot of different hats. And what I'm offering you is the opportunity to make it work for, I'm not offering you, I want to remind you, you have this inside of you, but I just want to remind you that you can make it work for you in any way you want. So for me, that process is, doing a lot of free writing, but already having my structure in place. You might prefer to get the structure after you do a lot of writing, but make it work for you, because an outline is just a container for your thoughts. If you don't like outline, screw it, take it away, make that table of contents instead. And do it after the fact. You can take your raw writing and roll it out. Like your raw writing is like the cookie dough, and then your outline or your table of contents is like the little cookie cutter that comes and gives it shape once you've already got that. All right. I am going to just circle back and see if there's some more questions or comments. If you have a question, now is a great time to put it in. What's your question about the process I just described, or about outlining generally? Let me know. Ooh, awesome. So Anne, are you using Post-it notes? Is that the idea that you're using to write Songs of Firmament? Cool. That sounds good. Wayne says, book 3, Revenge of the Outline. Yeah, book 3 is actually going to be a recipe for revising. That's what's coming in 2019, so look out for that. I realized, embarrassingly, I don't have a paperback of recipe for outlining handy, but I do have, these are the free printables that you get when you buy the book. And so I just want to give you that sense that, so here's an example. This is like coming up with your anchor scenes, right? These are literally containers, these are literally places for you to jot down notes. And if you go through Recipe for Outlining, you'll see that it is a combination of those kinds of containers and the kinds of questions and free writing prompts that inspire you to get the raw material, to get the cookie dough all rolled out. Because I guess that's what your story is now. It's the cookie dough and your outlines, the cookie cutters. So if what I talked about today is sounding like a kind of, not outlining, but kind of tool that you could use, I really recommend you go grab a copy of Recipe for Outlining. It's available at meganbarnhart.com/recipe for outlining, and I'll put the link in. But even if you didn't really dig what I said today, if you are not finding that outlining, whatever you think outlining is serving you, stop doing it. You have absolute permission. Stop trying to force a process that isn't working. Writing is hard enough. There's enough mental power involved in it. Stop trying to force something that isn't working. You have absolute permission. All right. So let's see. Oh, Anna's saying the thing she's trying is not writing in order. Yeah, so powerful. Now I want cookies. Yes. For some reason, thinking about writing makes me want cookies. Oh, Omi, thanks. She said, I like the recipe for outlining book. Help me come up with my own idea. Awesome. Dave says, I think a well-rounded writer should experiment with many different ways to write. Great point. You know, you're creating your own writing process, and it's really your responsibility and your opportunity to find what works and then keep doing that. My chapter 1 became chapter 8. Awesome. Ingrid says, I've been told that it helps to have a positive/negative tension between scenes. Therefore, would it be fair to apply such a value to parts of your outline? Well, Ingrid, here's the cool thing about that. If you want to have that tension, then after you have your list of big ideas, the big things you want to cover, however you got that, if you like outlining and you started with that, if you don't like outlining and you started with writing and scenes and then extracted, here are the big ideas, part of how you figure out how to order your scenes would be based on making sure there's that kind of tension. And then it becomes kind of fun problem solving. Where should you put things, as opposed to some kind of like stressful activity. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I love that inspiration that it's about having positive and having tension between scenes. That would help you figure out the order of your scenes and where they could go. All right. So if you don't like outlining, screw it. Make a table of contents. And if you want some guidance for how can you come up with the ideas for what should go in your table of contents, check out Recipe for Outlining. And I wish you, as always, everybody, happy writing.